Hi there. This is going to be a short tutorial on how to use the ECC library databases to find a research article for the first essay we'll be writing in the course. As you can see, I've used my web browser to get to ecc.edu/library, and this is going to be where we start. From there, go to Primo Search. In the dropdown, select SUNY Erie Library. And in this case, I recommend putting in a search term that's the best representation of the career that eventually you want to be in. In my case, even though I'm just an English teacher or English instructor, actually when I was in graduate school, I studied college composition. And the specific career that my goal was college rhetoric and composition. So I'm going to use that as my search term. This is going to take a second, but that's a good thing. It's because of the fact that Primo is just powerful enough to get you search results from every single different holding that the library has. From here, I recommend taking a look at the very top of each entry. You notice that it tells us what sort of thing it is. I recommend finding a journal that's going to suit our purposes. And our purposes are to find a scholarly journal article that represents something relatively recent, that talks about a new development in the field, and that comes from between 5 and 10 years ago. Now, rather than just scrolling through all this and hoping we eventually find that, actually, it's going to be easier for us to refine our results. The first thing we're going to do is limit that to available online. We're going to limit to peer-reviewed journals. Now, we're going to pick a subject heading that best matches the one we already put in, just so that we can limit our findings to the ones that we really want. In this case, I'm going to limit to English language rhetoric. Author and creator doesn't matter much to us. Neither does the campus or material type, but the publication date does. Again, we're going to take this, get rid of the original date there, whatever it was, and instead type in 2010. Click on the checkbox, and then we'll apply filters. In this case, I've selected just enough different options that I couldn't find any specific records. There was no one thing that was all of the various different refinements that I chose. So I'm going to get rid of my subject heading here. And then I noticed that by doing so, we've got a few different things that come up, but it's still nothing we really want. In fact, if you notice, all these things are books. That's not going to do us a lot of good. An entire book is going to give us simply too much to deal with there. So I'll get rid of the year limitation, and we'll see where that takes us next. At this point, looks like the one journal entry that keeps coming up is college composition and communication, and actually this is pretty well known, so I'm going to go to it. Now, from here, this is the sort of place where it's easy to look at what comes up and say, wait a second, what went wrong? Nothing went wrong. Instead, this is here to give us options for how to access this resource. I'm going to go to Available Online, and it takes me down and shows me the one place I can get to it, in this case, JSTOR Arts and Sciences. All right, now I'm here, and it looks like I can choose issues based on the decade. I'm going to go with the most recent one here. And it appears that I've got the 2010s through 2016, which is the most current one. Now, I do recommend start with the most current options and work backwards from there. The more current the finding, the more interesting it's going to be. I'm going to click on this. And hopefully at this point, what you're finding is a listing of the articles in the journal. And there we are. That's the pot of gold. That's what you want. Here, I'm going to try to find something that seems interesting, that I can make sense of, not necessarily having read it already, and that's long enough to be useful for us. In this case, the article What Writers Do, Behaviors, and Writing Studies looks like it would work. It's a little bit on the longer side, but given the specific career focus I'm looking at, that being English language and composition, that's okay. A lot of these things are a little on the longer side, but I don't think that'll be a problem. I'm going to click on the title here. Now, once it comes up, you could certainly just go through and read the whole thing on your computer screen, but frankly, I'd recommend against it. The way that I've always preferred to do this sort of research is by downloading the PDF of the article. Doing that allows us to save a copy of it, and that's going to make it more convenient to us. It also means that the display will look pretty much like it did in the original journal. That's going to make it easier to read, and it's going to mean that we can refer to the page numbers in the original journal, and that'll make the citation process a whole lot simpler. Once you've gotten to this point, it's up to you to take a look at the article. I recommend going relatively slowly through it at first. Try to get through as much as possible just to familiarize yourself with the subject matter and the organization of the article. Once you've been through that once, then go back to the CARS, or creating a research-based material from last week, and start annotating the article the way that you found that I had annotated my article in terms of which parts of the CARS method each part of the article is doing. Once you've done that, that's the moment when you can go through section by section and begin to pull the particular parts of support or the examples of each part of the CAR method that you'll want to write about in your essay draft.